there they are. That now, here's a note. What in the world is Northwestern going to do with Pat Fitzgerald? So this story went from there was hazing and the school did an investigation, hired a firm to do it, to Fitzgerald getting a 2-week suspension without pay like now. And then you started to have more information. And you got to be careful again. There are some outlets that are like, this is well ahead of the curve. Like former players who are either not condemning, but like saying what is being said by the whistleblower is ridiculous. And then now you'll have a player or two that has been a part of the program saying, no, absolutely this was going on. Paul, is Pat Fitzgerald going to be the head coach at Northwestern when they start the season in September?
It appears that there's too many things coming from all directions for that to be true, in my estimation. I don't know. I mean, like these things don't slow down. I mean, he's got long tenure there, and Northwestern, as you can tell, doesn't like to they're not concerned about year in and year out results on the field because they know who they are. They know that they're going to have some years where they're going to be really good, and they know they have some years where it's not going to be that because you're Northwestern and you have academic standards to meet. And, sometimes Northwestern and Stanford live in that same world. You're going to have some times where you're going to have a lot of really good depth of guys who can, be that student athlete and have that elite academic run. But some of those guys who are also elite academics might want to go to other schools all at the same time. And then you don't have that. So they've made their peace with the fact that they're not going to be contending for the Big Ten year in and year out. But these are things that just don't go away. And hazing is and should be a hot and button issue because it's the stupidest thing in the world. And it has no reason to exist, especially in the ways that it winds up doing. I mean, this isn't like, putting a guy in a room full of the smelly laundry and seeing how long he can stand it before he knocks and begs to come out. This is abusing and touching and doing things that are not acceptable in any walk of life. They've got to root it out of sports. Whether Pat Fitzgerald knew about it, there's these rumors that he had like a crew that was hazing people, this Shrek's List thing. We'll see how that all shakes out. But I do think they need to take more time and look deeper into evidence because they looked into one incident. But I think if you see hazing is built over time, Smokey. You and I both played high school sports. You played a little bit of college sports. Yeah, and there was a little bit of hazing. It wasn't like what I would call bad hazing when I was in high school. It wasn't anything like this, but everybody learned it from the class before them. So there's got to be more evidence than it was just this group of players because those things quite often are passed down generation to generation to generation of players. I got to tell you something, and there's part of when you see things that no longer are accepted, that doesn't mean that they were okay 25 or 50 years ago. Hazing was something that if I was a part of it or if I knew about it, I never saw where it went above and beyond just like being like stupid young kids, like young boys. I never saw anything that would have been of the level of anything sexual. For example, whatever the allegations, we have to remember these are allegations about what was happening with Northwestern, even though they're now, Adam Rittenberg just a minute ago obtained the initial correspondence from Northwestern and the whistleblower to the compliance and shows, in fact, there are pictures. The email includes 2 whiteboard photos with the names on that Shrek's List and also runs giving, which are part of the hazing. Hazing to me was either what you did was you walked away or you fought back. That's what it was like for me. And I don't remember anything that would have like even 20, 30, 50 years later had gotten me to the point where like I should not have done that. But things have changed. And so it will be interesting. He's their best coach ever. Northwestern, Gary Barnett was really good. He took them to a Rose Bowl back in the 90s. But it appears, and of course he's an alum and all of that, that right now a lot of the smoke. Now we also have to make sure we understand that a lot of these are allegations. However, some of this is in the independent review or at least in the investigation that, of course, started these stories in the first place. So when I mentioned Shrek's List, Conundrum says Shrek's List, everybody knew about that, Paul. And I I would caution to say knowing about something and knowing what it really is are two different things. So there can be the Shrek's list on the wall that everybody knows about, but having what's alleged is like it very much sounds like the plot of A Few Good Men, where everybody knew that Code Reds existed, but until that kid died in the movie, nobody cared until it went too far. And so that's how it goes. Like, yes, Shrek's list can exist, and Pat Fitzgerald can also have said, I'm okay with you guys razzing these dudes a little bit, and then if it gets out of hand, I'll tell you, and I'm not trying to throw Pat Fitzgerald into this, but this is not just recently. This is through the history of mankind. When the big, gigantic entity gets in trouble, it protects itself first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if Pat Fitzgerald is in trouble, he's going to protect himself first, mostly because that is human instinct, and also because you want to make sure, this doesn't get out of hand. So we'll see how it shakes out. But there are a lot of varying reports now. And again, I think where the university messed up in this particular case was they investigated this one incident of hazing, and hazing is not something that happens one time.
No,
it's something
it's
that
a tradition.
It's a tradition.
It's almost a tradition.
So if you were trying to say, well, this one he didn't know about, then yeah, maybe this one particularly he didn't know about. But if you're going to be the guy who's a coach for 2 decades at a place and not know about it, then that falls into the ignorance or complicity. Which one's better?
Yeah, but I did see immediately, and this is what we see now, anytime there's any kind of a controversy or allegations, that there's 3 or 4 national columnists who immediately say Pat Fitzgerald should resign. This is before we knew everything.
I don't know that. Like, do we know that yet?
No,
like,
that's what I'm saying. But it's just like immediately they must resign. It's as if we don't have any kind of system. And again, all of the evidence, and eventually players who are a part of the program who start to back up the whistleblower, who they start to talk, then you're going to start seeing something. But one whistleblower is sometimes not enough to bring down the entire army. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know what's going to happen with him. Am I wanting, I want Pat Fitzgerald fired? No, I don't, because I don't know enough information. If Pat Fitzgerald himself feels like he should resign because he doesn't want to bring any more negativity to his alma mater and the school he loves, that's his decision. Speaking of which,